Welcome to Navigating the Truth, and my guest this week is Tina Marie Coquette, and she is the owner, producer, CEO of KCR Radio. She's also a published author. And enjoy the show of Navigating the Truth.
We interrupt to bring you this.
We've hijacked your daily dose of regurgitated news to bring you Navigating the Truth. Brace yourself, listeners, as you're about to enter a world where the narrative is no longer masqueraded as the truth. A world where the conspiracies of yesterday's translate into the truths of today.
Are you listening?
The veils covering the truth are lifting, and understandings once suppressed are finally being revealed. Will you be ready? And now, your host and navigator through these circles of lies, the host of Navigating the Truth, Caroline Bell Tumblety.
Welcome to Navigating the Truth. I am Caroline Bell Tumblety, and I am your host this Sunday. And go to my website, souliam.org. You'll find out some more information. And today I have an awesome guest. I have Tina Marie Caouette. Oh, sorry if I made a mess of that, Tina. Tina built this digital network from the ground up with over 20 years in radio, TV. She's the foundation that moves the station forward from the studio design, producing, as well as coding the website. There isn't anything she can't do. And I am so happy to have Tina here with me today, and we're going to find out more about Tina. Hi, Tina Marie.
Hey, Caroline. What's going on? How are you?
I'm doing okay.
Nothing I can't do, yeah. Well, as I told you before we came on, there's plenty I can't do. We just don't talk about it.
I don't believe you.
Actually, no. To be honest with you, if there's something I can't do, I'm just wired that way that I will, study, learn, read books, and learn how to do it. Because I hate not knowing how to do something. But you'll never see me as a nuclear physicist, just to let you know that.
Never see. Okay, all right. Well, we never know. I would like to know, how did you get into radio? How did this all begin for you?
It was funny. When I was in college, my major was computers. That was going to be my major. When I was in high school, my class actually told me I was most likely to either own stock in Apple or own Apple outright, because I used to teach the computer class. Mm-hmm. So when I went to college, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to get into computers and programming, and I had my spell of being kind of a hacker type thing. And once I got there, I realized that's not what I wanted to do. And the reason why I didn't want to do it was simply, most of the teachers that were teaching in there, they were great at coding, but then you had to take all these classes on how to light a diode and all this stuff. Just stuff that in the real world you were never, ever going to. I don't think these teachers have ever worked in the real world. So for me, after spending a couple of years doing that, I said, nah. And, at the time I was a mobile entertainer. I was a DJ, I had an entertainment company. One of the number one entertainment companies actually in New England. And I just loved radio. I actually got into TV because I really wanted to actually direct and produce music videos, because at the time I grew up when MTV first came out, and I was fascinated by that. I was fascinated how you could take a song and put visuals to it. It was just fascinating. And in fact, my senior project, I actually took a band and made a rockumentary on them, which was a lot of fun. Made a video for them, did a whole rockumentary on them, and it was great. But that's what kind of got me. And then what really got me hooked on radio was when I was in college doing the television, communication, radio broadcasting classes. I loved the video aspect of it, but there was an opening at the local radio station, the college radio station. And I said, you know what, let me try that. So I've been a DJ. I'm in front of the public all the time. How difficult could it be? Well, I found real quickly how difficult being on air was, because when you're a DJ, you're entertaining to a crowd. You're feeding off the energy of a crowd. But when you are a DJ on air, you're in a room mostly by yourself looking at four walls. Sometimes you'll have a board up and there's the two of you in there, or you might have a guest. But for the most part, you're in there by yourself.
Yeah.
And that's hard to get motivated and excited because you're like, I mean, you literally have to have a split personality in order to do that. And and I definitely kind of fit into that category. But I fell in love. I did my on-air test for this station. They absolutely loved me. They loved the music I picked. And I worked about a year on the college radio there, and I got to interview some really cool people. I think the first person I ever interviewed, which just really got me hooked on interviewing people, was I was supposed to be working the afternoon shift. The program director of the station called and said, hey, it was Joe, who was the guy that was on before me, wasn't going to be able to come in. So he says, would you come in and do the show for him because we have a guest, and because he's sick, he can't. I said, well, who's the guest first? And, I know it was Robert Smith from The Cure.
Oh, whoa.
My favorite band of all freaking time.
Yeah, really.
And I just dropped the phone. I'm like, no effing way. And they're like, yeah, you got to come in. I'm like, so, all right. So I came in, I interviewed Robert Smith from The Cure. It was about half an hour interview. He was absolutely fantastic. And this was in the early 90s. So this was in the height of The Cure. And then he gave me backstage passes. I went to the show, got to hang backstage with the band and stuff that weekend. And it was just a really surreal experience. And that's kind of what got me hooked in the radio industry. And then when I came out, I moved out from New England area after being on a few stations in New England. I moved out here to Las Vegas to pretty much retire. I just was kind of sold my entertainment company, and I was just going to kind of chill. But I was bored. And I remember going into, there was an opening for KTWN, which was a talk radio station. I'm like, well, this is AM talk radio station. I can do talk radio. And they were looking for a board op, producer, call screener, all that kind of stuff. And I met my program director, John Schaefer. And I remember sitting there talking to John, and we were talking about different things, and he's looking at my resume, and he's like, you're really overqualified for what we need. And I said, I'm just bored out of hell. He goes, well, we're only paying like $10 an hour. I'm like, I don't care. I'm bored as hell. And I says, what's the interview process? Do we have another interview to go through? What's the process here? And he said, if you're interested, I'm just going to march you down to HR right now and get you, because
He wasn't letting you leave.
Yeah, well, the thing is he was originally from Pennsylvania, so he's from the East Coast. So it makes a big difference when you're on the East Coast, the work ethic, and he already knew what my work ethic was going to be. So when I went the first day of training, Angie was training me, and I remember we're in the studio and she's showing me, and I'm like, oh yeah, and I knew all the equipment inside and out. I just had to get familiar with the one program that they were using, and I literally just picked right up on it. About 45 minutes into my training, she goes into John, she goes, aren't you supposed to be training Tina? She goes, she's already running everything. She knows the equipment more than I do.
Wow.
And that's kind of, and then it was after about a year or two of kind of working there, I approached John about possibly doing a show, because it was kind of a mutual thing, because I had done a couple interviews, because I had been on a couple TV shows about my UFO experiences and stuff like that. And I took Joey Essex, who's like the Kim Kardashian of the UK. I took him out to Area 51. And John just said after my couple interviews, he's like, why don't you do a show? Well, that's what I did. I started with a 1 hour show, went to a 2 hour show. My 2 hour show was on from midnight to 2 in the morning. Just on Friday. It was just a 1 night a week show. But that Friday 2 hour block, we were beating coast to coast out here in Las Vegas with my show.
Yeah.
Which just amazed me, because I would always ask, John, I'm like, what's the numbers? I didn't really care, but I was just curious. Am I doing a good job? I mean, he just kept saying, keep doing what you're doing. And then he would send me out, and we'd have, I represented the station, a lot of celebrity type promotional things they had. And I hated it. I hated the term celebrity. I hated, I hated that whole, like, some people like all that stuff, Yeah. I really wasn't like that. I like I like doing the stuff, but I wanted to be quiet about it. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. Is I started doing all these celebrity appearances and stuff like that, and it was fun. But I always had a policy. And that's probably why my boss loved me. Is if somebody went out and asked for my autograph or picture, they never got it until I got theirs. I didn't care who you were. You could be just somebody walking on the street. If you
Oh,
recognize me, I wouldn't give you mine
yeah.
until I get yours. I literally, to this day, still have postcards from all around the world. I have postcards. If somebody sent me a postcard from Switzerland, I sent a postcard back.
Hmm.
I would always, if take pictures or whatever, and I says, make sure you send them to me, and I would print them out. And it was for me to keep humble. I wanted to really understand that I was very lucky to be in the situation that I was in. And
Hmm.
then I left KDON just because I saw the way the radio image industry was going. It was automating everything. It was getting rid of a lot of people. When I worked at KDON, Beasley Broadcast had 5 stations. It had 4 FM stations, and it had an AM station.
Hmm.
And I think they have now 6 or 7. But they were all in the same facility, and I did the overnight shifts. Well, from 9 o'clock, or so actually 7 o'clock at night until 4 in the morning, I was the only one running everything in there. The
Whoa.
engineers loved it because if there was a problem, they would just call me, "Hey, Tina, can you go in the rack room and fix this or fix that?" So they didn't have to make the drive in because I knew all the equipment.
Hmm.
But when I saw the way all the automation was going, they were trying to cut down staff and everything else. That's when I said, you know what? I think it's time for me to go. And I wanted to be able to start a radio network. And this is right before all these digital networks or all these podcasts and everything popped up. I wanted to be able to start something that allowed people who have no radio background. It allowed me to, produce a show for them, do radio imaging for them, make them sound really professional. And we
Hmm.
ran everything. So all they had to do was do the show live on air. See, a lot of people don't have a radio background. And I think you can tell when you listen to a lot of podcasts that they have
Definitely.
absolutely no experience doing radio. And I've always said just because you can do a show doesn't mean you should. And
Right.
if you're going to do it, then you want to hire somebody who is going to help you take and produce the show the way it should be produced. And
That's really
that's
good advice.
yeah,
Yeah.
and we do that over here. We try to keep it low cost for people. We
Hmm.
try to make sure everybody has a great time doing their shows. We want them to sound extremely professional, and that's what I've always wanted to do: keep the costs low for everybody. And now we've got people from all around the world who listen. We have people from all around the world who broadcast on here on the
Yeah.
network. And
Yeah.
that's what and I love doing what I do. So I love radio. So that's how the whole radio TV thing got started. And I'm still passionate. I'm very old school when it comes to radio,
Hmm.
broadcasting, very old ABC, World of Worlds type stuff. I love the way that stuff was produced because it was produced in a way that it sounded like it was a lot of work went into the recording, but it was actually all done live on air, which I think is
Wow.
just
Yeah.
amazing. Nowadays, I watch people who put podcasts out. Most of them couldn't do a show live because they don't know how to do a live show. There's a lot of stalls.
Hmm.
They're not broadcast professionals. And don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, YouTube and all that stuff, people have their little niche they go, whatever. But even on YouTube, you watch stuff that's not produced as well as it should be. And
Hmm.
that's my pet peeve. And the problem is, though, COVID really has changed the way people broadcast their shows, how they broadcast, whether it's radio or their TV shows, whatever they're doing. It's really changed because the listeners now have become so adapt to the fact that a lot of stuff is poor quality. They just assume
Hmm.
that's the norm.
Yeah.
And I still get to this day, people call and want to be on the network, and then they go, well, why should I pay you? I can go do it here. Well, if you pay me, everything's going to sound great. We're going to make you
Yep.
sound very professional, radio imaging, all that stuff. And I always tell this story because I think it's hilarious. I have people send me podcast or, hey, here's my YouTube channel. Go check it out. I'd love to be able to let me put my audio on your network, and I'll go check them out. And I'll usually give them honest, probably too honest sometimes, because I think people should get criticized properly. And I'm not saying, and I always tell them, I'm not the say all and everything. I'm just going to give you some suggestions. But there was one girl, and I remember this because I know she was mortified, and the video came down. But she was sent me a video. I've got all these followers. She had like 5 or 6 thousand followers on YouTube, and she had a show, and she's like, oh, yeah, I'd love to have my thing on your network. I could bring all these people. And I'm like, okay, first of all, you're not going to bring all these people.
Right.
Don't, when I hear people tell me, oh, I got 1 million people who listen to my show. No, you don't. If you had 1 million people, you'd be on every AM and FM station. Trust me. I've worked in there. I worked as program directors. If somebody came to me and I could verify they had 1 million listeners, they'd be on my station in a heartbeat. But most people don't. Most people like to exaggerate. But she sends me this video, and I've always told people, like, if you're going to do video, be aware of what is in your frame of view. A lot of them, I watch these videos, they just, we're looking up their nose, we're looking down off the top of their head, we're just,
Yeah.
I saw their eyes aren't centered. There's a whole way your face should be centered. Or they bring guests in and they're huge and the guest is like really small or
Yep.
really, they're off their cell phone and it's on a bad angle. And it's just all this stuff that just really makes watching a video. But this girl sent a video and I watched the video and I could only watch about 3 minutes of it because I couldn't stop laughing, even though the video was serious. And I sent her a message and I said, listen, can I give you the biggest suggestion I can give you is if you are going to send a video to a network and ask them to carry the show, you might want to be aware of what is in your background. And I tell people, put a screen up behind you, put a sheet up behind you, because she was doing it from her bedroom. You could see her bedroom, and on her bureau, clear as day in the background, right over the side of her shoulder was a giant dildo.
Oh no.
And I didn't, I told her, I'm like, listen, if you're talking about if you're talking about sex and sex shows and stuff, like, okay, great, fine, have that on the background.
fine,
That's
yeah.
great. But you weren't. You were talking about a very serious topic. And I'm like, I couldn't take you seriously because my eye kept getting directed over there. And she was mortified because she lives in that environment, wasn't even aware of that.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of the natural case of things. But yeah, radio has changed definitely over the years when I first got into it to what it is now. I think it's more available to so many more people, which is a good thing. Gives us a lot more
Definitely.
voices, because we know that the mainstream media, there is left-wing radio and TV and right-wing radio and TV. There is absolutely, I have not come across any channel out there that is middle of the road. And
Right.
anybody that
Yep.
thinks it is middle of the road has their own political beliefs. They really don't understand radio TV, because I have not found any station that is middle of the road that actually does research. And this is why I like independent people who are, listen, I don't agree with everything my listeners say on the show or my guests say on the show.
I know. Yep.
And I want it that way. I want people to make up their own mind. I want the listeners to come listen to the host or the guest and be able to make up their own mind. Say, do their own research and stuff like that. And I have people who go, I can't believe you had that person on. Why? First of all, it's not my guest. It was, the host guest, and the network believes truly in free speech. The only thing we try to stay away from is we don't want you dropping, F-bombs left and right. We don't want a Howard Stern type show.
Right.
And the other thing is we don't want you to attack like other shows on this network. If you attack other people or whatever and stuff, that's your prerogative. That's the beef with them, but you're not going to attack other hosts or listeners. And even the listeners that come in, we want you to be, ask real questions and be real, but just don't be rude in the chat room. You can agree to disagree. I think we've
Absolutely.
lost that. I mean, when I was in radio years, back in the early 90s, we could agree to disagree on almost anything. It was nice. But nowadays,
It was easy.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was easy. Nobody got ruffled. Like, it was just, let's move on. Next subject,
Yeah, they were like, I have friends that lean to the left, friends that lean to the right. And, you used to be able to have a conversation with them. And I will say this, I still have that ability with a lot of my friends. But I do know that, COVID really changed the way and the dynamic structure that people talk about things. The cancel culture, you have to be really careful walking on eggshells sometimes talking to people about certain topics. And we shouldn't be that. We should be able to have an open dialogue. You can say your thoughts. I can say my thoughts. No matter what you do, you're not going to persuade me. No matter what I do, I'm not going to persuade you. But maybe we can come to some kind of common ground or see each other's points of view or where we're coming from. And that's how it should be. And
Oh yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. Like we also learn that way.
yes.
This is the way we learn. Yeah.
Yes, because
We
if
have
you go in with blinders on, just
mhm,
with your own, you're going to miss other facts that maybe because you're so blind. See, one of the things that is happening, and I think this is what has really escalated this whole divide in this country from left to right, is whether you're on social media or you're on Google or Yahoo or Bing or any of these search engines, right?
mhm,
They have algorithms that cater to what you like. So if you are on Google and you lean to the left, well, guess what? A lot of the news articles and stuff that come up are all going to lean to the left. You're going to think everybody thinks that way. You're not
yeah.
going to get all the facts. And if you lean to the right, it's the same way. So what happens
Mhm.
is you're getting a filtered version of the news and not actually both sides. And then you can make up your mind. So if you truly believe one way, guess what? Those algorithms are feeding that belief.
Yeah.
And it's the same with Facebook. It's the same with Twitter and all these different platforms. This is why they kind of watch all your keystrokes. If you look at like TikTok is literally tracking every keystroke you put on your phone.
Mhm.
This is why it's very dangerous because it's owned by China. But
Yeah.
when you turn around and understand that, I joke with people, if you really don't think what I'm saying is true, take your phone, leave your phone on, and let's say you don't have a cat for a week. Talk about cat toys you're going to buy.
Yep.
And then go out
Yep.
to your social media site and watch how many cat ads and toys and things or cat videos start popping up on your timelines or ads on Google. Watch, because every single phone has Google automatically built into their software, whether it's an iPhone or Android. And even
Right.
if you shut off the GPS location device with Google, they're still collecting all that data, and as soon as you go online, it's being uploaded to them. So this is why they can, when you're out with your phone, all of a sudden they're giving you recommendations for restaurants nearby.
Yeah.
Because,
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
and this is the problem, like I said, I've had with radio and TV, because now these journalists who are in radio and TV, they are getting filtered news. And on top of that, most of these stations, because they are trying to cut costs, you don't have investigative journalism anymore. What you have is AP News. Like there's 2 or 3 news sources out there only. And a lot of stations adhere to these news services. And why is that dangerous? Because you'll see these videos where it's like, oh, look at all these stations the same time saying the same thing. Yeah, because they're going to the AP news source, they're pulling the information, and because they're too lazy to rewrite the paragraph or two that comes through the line, they're just reading what was already written for them.
Yeah.
And
Same
this is
bites.
and
Yep.
so you have all these stations saying the same thing. And it's, to me, it's very dangerous when it happens like nobody does investigative journalism or independent thoughts anymore. So I always tell people that just, search around, look around. Don't be afraid to
Yeah.
get another point of view. Even if you don't agree with it, at least read it, because you might be missing something that would give you a better understanding of what you should be really learning. But that's just my
Well,
take
yeah.
on radio. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. No, I agree with you. Like I even noticed it. In fact, that was when I became aware of it. Me and my daughter would be, we'd be sitting in the same room talking away, but she would have a different point of view for the one I had, and I'd be like, "Where are you getting this information?" And what was basically happening was her feed was basically feeding her specific information that was opposed to the information I had. It looks like we are coming up on a break, and hang on, everybody. We will be right back with Tina Marie.
You're listening to Navigating the Truth with Caroline Bell Tumblety, where the truth survives and the lies are exposed.
I just want to assure you that everything is under control. There's been no damage except for some temporary malfunction of the radio.
Come be a part of this awakening by joining us in chat or by calling our hotline at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers, find us on Skype at KCOR Radio.
We're pushing the ultimate frontier here.
Control must be maintained.
More disinformation exposed and the truth discovered. After a word from our sponsors.
1 million miles till midnight. A story of timelines, artificial worlds, simulated races, and the galactic imprint. And the destiny of a blue world called Earth. 1 Million Miles Till Midnight, written by Solaris Blue Raven, is a journey through the mind's eye which allows the reader to surf a wave of technological and multidimensional intellect, revealing a bridge between conscious design and the truth. A multidimensional bleed-through awakens the world of artificial intelligence to set sail into the frontiers of a vast multiverse, morphing planets and terraforming ascended worlds beyond the linear programs of a fated race. 1 Million Miles Till Midnight will awaken, inspire, prepare, and enlighten one to the many multidimensional states of consciousness and worlds we reside in. With every cell and atom, we are this truth and multiverse. 1 Million Miles Till Midnight, written by Solaris Blue Raven. Available now at Amazon.com. Don't wait. Get your copy today.
1, 2, 3, 4!
To the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
I love the way it sounds. Love the music. I listen all day.
The future of radio is here and now.
Alien Deceptions, a suspenseful sci-fi romance thriller by Tina Marie, featuring the tantalizing Erica Jones and the mysterious Russell Hamilton. An out-of-this-world book of fiction based on years of document facts and files the government does not want you to know about, at least not yet. Alien Deceptions by Tina Marie. Available now at Amazon.com or get a signed copy at TinaMarieEntertainment.com. Get your copy now.
Change your frequency, change your life with the Lemurian plug. The Lemurian plug is easy to control, it's simple to set up, and wireless. It helps to neutralize toxins and has restorative frequencies for healing. It also helps to protect you and your family from EMFs. The Lemurian plug is energy efficient and designed using ancient technology for a superior design. One unit can cover up to 1,000 square feet. This life-changing product is reasonably priced. And isn't you and your family's health worth a small investment? For more information on the miraculous effects of this plug or to purchase the Lemurian plug, visit thelumerianplug.com. That's thelumerianplug.com. The Lemurian plug is like nothing you've ever experienced. Order yours today.
Vegas, baby! Vegas' #1 source for talk and new music.
How cool is that?
Going live in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to Navigating the Truth, the one show that peels back the masks of the elite and exposes the truth we're not being told.
Here to warn you. You must not abuse the power you've been given. Eventually, you will lose control of that power and the whole world will suffer.
Come partake in the awakening by calling the show at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230.
Give us a call now.
Those around the world, connect with us on Skype at KCOR Radio. Follow us on Twitter at KCOR Radio or use hashtag KCOR. Come engage in the discussion live in our chat room at www.kcorradio.com.
Our survival depends upon it.
Now, back to examining the narratives and uncovering the truth with your host of Navigating the Truth, Caroline Bell Tumblety. Caroline Bell Tumblety.
Welcome back to Navigating the Truth. I'm Caroline Bell Tumblety and I am your host. And today I have the lovely Tina Marie with me. And we're talking about how this all came about. How
we can even switch gears. We can head towards my as an author, my writing is. I mean, we can go towards my UFO experiences. We can talk politics and what's going on in the world today, which is just a total shithole here in the United States. But
the world, is the world,
yeah. But then I'll become Solaris and I'll get all fired up. So Solaris and me, we talk after the show a lot, Solaris and I. And we've had a few times where we've gone on air together. She would come on my show and we go on air. And I'll tell you what, the two of us together, when we get going, wow, I'm telling you, I love Solaris so much. She is just such a smart lady. And when
Very
the two of
smart,
us get going and we start talking about what's going on, oh yeah, it's like literally we don't hold punches. I miss doing the live shows with her because it was so much fun.
Yeah. Well, it's being observant, you're taking it all in. Like you're not just focused in one area, and Solaris is like has this kind of view that has taken it's the big picture. It's just the whole thing, and you see it. You see what doesn't work. Like you were talking about the algorithms and how we're being steered in one way or in another direction, depending on what we're typing in, what we're looking at. I think the technology could have been used so much better than how they are applying it right now, which is dividing everybody.
Well, the problem is majority of the news cycle. This is something that a lot of people don't know. This goes back to my hacker days. I get a lot of my news source from the dark web. There's a lot of places I go and I get files, news sources, or I get information without saying too much or getting myself into trouble, but from the dark web. And the reason for that is 90% of what is out on the web is not available to the general public. And what I mean by that is Google, Yahoo, and all them pretty much are only cataloging or, making searchable about 10% of the web. And that is something that is unfortunate enough. And a lot of people just don't know how to go through and navigate and get onto the dark web. And you got to watch what you do because you could get easily hacked if you're in the wrong site. You get into trouble if you're on the wrong site. I had that happen to me when I was doing my show on KDON. There was somebody sent me this video game. It was called Sad Satan or something like that. It looked like almost like a Minecraft type style game, but they sent me it and they said, "Hey Tina, what do you think about this game?" because of what was going on. So I looked at it and I started looking into it. Well, I have a very inquisitive mind, so I didn't necessarily. The video game, because I'm not a video game person, was not appealing to me. But what was appealing to me as a DJ was the music, the backtrack that was on this video game or the promotional piece that was put out. And then I started looking into it. Now, there is a lot of different stations that you can on the dark web you cannot get regularly. And they're there for a reason. And some of them, like this, I remember this one thing. It was like this little girl speaking, and it was like random talk, and then she'd be like 3A, 7, 4B, oh, and then she'd go like, "Oh, you're crazy," and then she'd be like, "You know, or whatever," and she'd say something backwards or what. It was just weird, just like what is all this rubbish with the music track behind it? And it had club music, so I started looking into it. Well, come to find out, there are a bunch of different stations that are on the dark web that a lot of CIA or spies from other countries use to communicate with their spies inside other countries. And there are codes inside that music or the words saying. So maybe it's just whatever she says at 10 o'clock from 10 o'clock to 10:01. Or maybe it's, every other word or every other 10 letters or something means something, right? And this is all has been going on for the longest time. And I started looking into a couple different stations that weren't just off the video game, but just were intriguing to me. I started really looking at all these weird stations and their music and things that were being said. Sometimes everything was back. It was just, like I said, just weird stuff. And I was going into KDON to do my show on Friday night. I was going in. It was about 6 o'clock at night. I'm driving in. And 2 black SUVs, lights come on. I'm like, oh shit, what did I? Now I've had this experience before for something else because of what I was doing with the Area 51, but this, I got pulled over, and literally it was the CIA that pulled me over. Yeah, and I was scared shitless, to be honest with you, because they were looking into, because I was getting ready to go do my show on this whole Sad Satan and the music and all this stuff. And they wanted to know what I was going to say or what I was going to do or what I was going to reveal, because basically what I had done in a roundabout way is not really crack the code, so to speak, but I found one of the stations that was theirs was the CIA station that they were communicating with people who were in the Middle East.
Oh, whoa.
And the other station was like a Hezbollah station.
Oh, wow.
So they wanted to know if I was a terrorist. They wanted to know, why I was looking into these stations. And I was like, oh crap, what did I get myself into? And nothing, it wasn't nothing major, but it was a very interesting experience for sure. And they let me go, and I did my show, and everything was all good or whatever and stuff. But it's one of the things I always tell people. So, go on the dark web. First of all, make sure you have good security so you don't get your computer hacked. But then just because you're going to have to download torrent software to get in. Yeah. But, and then you really have to know where you're going. That's the biggest thing with the dark web. So, like, you can go on Google and just hit search. Well, on the dark web, you don't really have that ability. You really have to know a lot of times where you're going. And I still have some of my friends in the hacker world that I'm friends with, not as much as I used to, but and they'll send me links to or IP addresses to get into certain files or sites to kind of dig around, look what's in there and stuff like that. But I strongly suggest, if you really are interested in the truth, stop Googling. Stop.
Yeah,
you're not going
really.
to find it on Google. You're not going to find it on Yahoo. What you're going to find is a liquidized version of the truth, whether it's from the left or from the right, or what you're going to find, especially now, is you'll search something and the first 3 pages of stuff that come up are going to be from conspiracy people who absolutely have no facts whatsoever, but they understand how the algorithms work. So they take something that's streaming in the news, they make a conspiracy on it, and then 15 or 20 other YouTube channels pick up on this one person that created this, and next thing you know, it becomes fact. And that's it's very dangerous when you have that going on the web and on these sites. But again, people understand this is what sells. The more, this is one of the reasons why I stepped away from the ufology field myself, stopped talking about my experiences, because my experiences were my experiences. What happened. I haven't had any other experiences since. And I was very passionate about it. I was just trying to figure out in my head. I thought I was going insane. I was just trying to figure everything out. And, I get criticized because, why am I listening to Tina? Because she's, has nothing new to bring to the table. And I'm like, well, what do you want me to do? Make something up? I mean, and there are people in this field, and especially and I'm going to put in quote, the love and light field, right? These people are probably the most brutal people I've ever met. There are some that are truly practice what they preach, and there are some that say love and light, and they'll be the first one to stab you in the back to get a leg up on you and a leg up on what they're promoting, which is themselves. I got more attacked from people with inside the ufology field. I had more people misquote me. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to try to get my own book out on my experiences, only because then I could say, listen, stop misquoting me. If you want to believe what I said, because I had people, I've had big researchers in this field misquote me, which caused just a wreck of havoc from people saying, I knew you were fake, Tina. And then I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, this person, and I'm not going to name names, but this person said this on their podcast. And I'm like, well, that person was wrong.
Yeah.
That person was wrong. And, so I kind of stepped away from that, unfortunately. And then, with doing the radio show, the radio network, we get so busy with the shows over here and everything else going on in my life that I had to stop my radio show a little bit. And I do miss it. I do miss, like, there are times when I see what's going on in the news and I seriously I so want to go on the air and go on a rant, but I'm like, do people really want to hear somebody coming online and going on a rant and throwing out facts? Because a lot of times people don't want facts. What they want is they want you to believe what they believe. There's a lot of that, it's like, and if you don't believe what I believe, well, then you're wrong. Well, why can't we both be right?
Yeah.
And they don't have
I think facts, I think because we have so much false lies, deceit going on, we really need to balance things out. Like, there isn't enough truth out there. There isn't enough people listening to the truth. Is maybe what, and yet it's no my call to say what we should be listening to. But I think, and again, this is just my opinion, I think because we have been turning away, because we didn't want to deal with it, or we didn't want to see it, or we didn't want to feel it, like, that is why we are where we are. There's a need now to actually, well, again, it's my opinion, there's just a need for more truth in order to balance things out.
I totally agree. I think you need that. And I mean, I think I think basically what you need to do is, I think more people are becoming aware, especially if you look at what's just transpired this past week, leading up to the elections in November, for example. Everything was about the, Trump having classified documents, the raid on Mar-a-Lago, and all this kind of stuff. And remember, people forget that the documents were found in his safe, a locked safe, which was being patrolled by Secret Service because that's where he was staying. So you had Secret Service. So the odds of getting in there were like slim to none. Juxtaposed to what has come down over the last couple weeks, well, last week really, with Biden and, his documents that have been now found, in his garage next to his Corvette, for Christ's sakes.
I know.
And he goes, oh, well, the garage was locked. Really? Like, do you know how easy it is to break into a garage? Like, really? And here he is back in November or, September criticizing Trump, saying, no president should be able to be reelected. They should go to jail. Now they're changing the tune, the narrative, right? Well, it was just, now they are trying to change the definition of classified, what was classified. I mean, it's just crazy when you look at something like this. And what's even worse is the fact that the media and everybody knew about this the beginning of November before the elections, but they held off until now to release this, which again just goes to show the media bias and the way they're trying to control the narratives and all this kind of stuff. We've just got to really be vigilant. I think we as a society or people need to really stop being told what to think and start looking and researching on what to think. That's what we should be doing, and we don't. We use social media more for a platform to promote ourselves, our individuals, our own egos, instead of using the platform to keep those people in check, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we have availability to media across the world. And again, here in the United States, we are extremely lazy. If you really want to see what's going on in the media, watch how other countries cover what is going on in the United States. And you'll be shocked at what they talk about compared to what our news stations talk about. And we need to really understand that. But I just kind of watch what's going on now. I still kind of examine stuff, but even the whole idea, like the narratives that go on, like we're in a recession. Okay, by definitions which have been in place for years, 70, 80, 100 years, what the definition of a recession is, we're in a recession. But no, they have actually gone out online and changed what the definition of a recession is.
Yeah.
So we're not in a recession. Well, wait a minute. In any other year, this would be considered a recession, but now we're not. But we live in such a 30-second news cycle where people don't want to understand history. They don't want to go back and do any research. Again, they want to be told what to. And some people, like I said, they have such ideological beliefs, whether it's left or right, that you're not going to change them anyways.
Right.
And I'm okay with that. If you lean to either side, middle, whatever, if you have
Thank you for listening to Navigating the Truth on KCOR Radio. And my lovely guest was Tina Marie. If you'd like to hear the rest of the show, please go to kcorradio.com.